Hi, I'm Kathyanne White. This is a quick video on how to print Reemay. Reemay is a spun bond polyester. It can be really thin, and it comes in three thicknesses actually. This is the thicker thickness. You can kind of see the difference here. It prints really easily on a regular printer. You don't have to have an art printer. You want to use a pigment printer, but we'll go into that a little bit when we get to the printer. The reason I like to print Reemay is because it has these amazing melting capabilities, and so what happens is you can create artwork and all sorts of interesting things out of a regular print and a heat tool. So this is what one of the pieces looks like when it's done, and I continue to melt and tear and melt and tear and melt and tear and add it in different layers with wires and beads and all sorts of fun things. So stick around, watch the video, and you'll learn how to do this, and then you can take it for your own art or decide what you want to do with your surfaces. This is the Precoat part. I have several sheets here of 8.5 by 11 that I'm going to Precoat. I'm going to use a clear matte Precoat from Inkaid. It's got an adhesive in it so it'll adhere to the fabrics nicely. And I usually take it out and put it in a separate little tub. What I will do is I'll make sure that the brush I'm going to use does not have any lint on it. And this could be mixed up a little teeny bit there. Now the other thing about this fabric is you can see how it's pretty see-through. So when I do this in these little sheets, even in the large sheets that I do, when I do this I'm going to stack them. Maybe 3 because they're very thin. The first ones are very thin. I'm going to stack them in 3. And then some of the Precoat will go through instead of all the way wasted. Now, I see this little thing there, which you probably can't see in the video, but it's on the bottom side, and I don't want that little black deal thing. So I make sure my surfaces are clean of lint, and I'm just going to brush this on. This is a really easy surface to put a Precoat on. Just takes the Precoat, and sometimes it's probably not a good idea. Sometimes I run my finger over it. Make sure you might want to use rubber gloves or something like that. I don't, but it's up to you. Read the product instructions and make sure you take your precautions and then wash your hands afterwards. And it'd be great if I could get this off, huh? Okay, so there's one sheet. I'm just going to put it over here and let it dry. And then this one has a bunch of Precoat on it. So I'm not really going to put a lot of Precoat on it. I'm just going to smooth it on. And that's part of the reason for putting something underneath, because you're definitely going to lose in these really thin fabrics. You're just going to definitely lose the Precoat. So it's better to just have places for it to go. So now I've got those done. Now say we're just going to pretend here. Say I was going to use a different Precoat, which I'm not. Oops, almost messed those up. What would happen in between is I can take this bottle of vinegar and water on my polypropylene sheet that I'm using as a base, and I can take some, it cleans it up. It's like kind of considered a cleanser, and then I could use a different Precoat if I wanted to on the next surface, because it wouldn't get on it. But I'm not going to do that because I'm just going to do these. And since I can't reach any more things, I'm going to put them right here to dry. So I do the same thing. I'm just going to make sure everything's clean, which I already did. And then I'm going to put the Precoat on it. This one underneath will need more Precoat because it's not anywhere near as thin as the other surface was. And once I do that, then I'm going to let these dry, and we'll get into what happens with the carrier sheet. From the Precoat, so we're ready to print. And I'm going to show you how I put the surface on a carrier sheet. But before I do that, I wanted to look at the back of these because some of them are marked and some of them aren't. We didn't talk about this, but when you use this Reemay type of surface, and many of the surfaces that you might print, you will not know whether it's got a Precoat on it, for one, and number two, which side is up. So I always like to mark the back of my surface with a B. I usually like to use a pencil because the ink of any kind of pen can bleed through the pre-coat while you're pre-coating and maybe even into the ink. So, but in this case you can't do that because a pencil cannot be seen on this. So in order for me to know that now my top is here, I need to have that marked. And I need to have it marked also so that I know which surfaces I actually have already pre-coated. I'm using inkjet paper because it is the thinnest paper that I can use, and this printer doesn't even like cardstock, but it will print alternative surfaces. I think it's because the surfaces are a little, have more grit to it. Anyway, I would not do this usually in my studio. I always take it to the side or take it outside, but this is a spray adhesive. 505 temporary fabric adhesive. This will assist in keeping this flat on the carrier sheet so that it will not pull up during printing. So it's a really good idea for fabrics and surfaces that might lift to give it some type of a coat of a spray adhesive. You don't want to do what I just did. You want to take parchment paper and smooth it down so you don't have your fingers all over it. And sometimes I forget. Okay, so now my surface is on here, but what I want to do is make sure that it's going to stay, and since it's a little printer, has no clearance, I'm going to tape this along the edges with a 1/2-inch masking tape, just so that I can put this side to side, and I can make sure that this surface is not going to come up when I start the print process and make the printer think that something is being weird. So I'm going to tape this all the way around all the edges, and then it'll be ready to go. When I get to this side, it's going to be my last side. I'm going to trim the edges off at the end here, and then this sheet is ready to print. So from here we can take this to the printer. Okay, so I just hit print on this and I just put it through the top here, regular way, and it's just taking the print through, and we'll see what happens when it's done. So we got several prints out of this, and one of the things that I will do is I will just take my rotary cutter and cut these right off the carrier sheets because the tape, we're not going to use the carrier sheets again, it doesn't matter, so you might as well not mess with even taking the tape off, and then you have your print. So here's one of them, and you can see how porous this is, how much ink goes through to the carrier sheet. And that would be the same thing for this one. So you are going to get that residual ink on the bottom. I'll take this last one out. Get it more in view here. Now the thing is about this printer, you don't have a lot of choices for all sorts of things. Printer profiles as far as what kind of ink you want to use, and a profile for your ink and surface, but you still get a decent print, and the way to see this again is to put it back on white since it is so porous that you can hardly see through it. So aside from that, I just wanted to show you that if you are using an art printer, which is obviously the best choice for any of this type of thing, you can get some really nice larger prints. And these were done on my Epson R3000, which will print 13 inches wide. So if I do a series of them, and I print them over and over, then I end up with a situation where I can have enough layers to do some work with it. And then here's another print. You can see how porous they are by seeing the table through them. And if not, you can see how the colors are. And you can totally mount them on something that you can see the white through and just show them this way. So anyway, that is how to print with Luchador. I was going to say the wrong thing now. We're printing with Reemay. Luchador is a similar surface. So that's how to print with Reemay. And if you have any questions, go ahead and email me, make a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll take it to other workshops from here.